Shut up and sit down.
It's round 12 of the ChampCar iRacing series for 2022. Our 16-round championship. Where has it all gone? It's an exciting time to be keeping our eyes on this championship, because as we draw closer to the end of the year and the end of the season, we get closer to giving away some of the great prizes that are on offer here in the ChampCar iRacing series for 2022. Our season championship, the title honors, is of course where a lot of the excitement is at, because that driver is going to be getting $1,500 of ChampCar credit to put towards whatever real wheel-to-wheel racing they want to do next year with the ChampCar Endurance Series. Whoever that winner will be, I'm sure they're going to be very, very excited for it. It's a great prize. It means our ChampCar members who are with us here on iRacing have a chance at winning and being able to take their car and their team to more tracks or more racing in the coming year. Or if it's an iRacer, great opportunity to take the sim skills and passion and put it onto the real circuits of North America, some bucket list tracks that are available in the ChampCar Endurance Series. But the same prize also going to be given to a randomly drawn season-long participant. So you don't necessarily have to win it to be in it. You've just got to be in it to have a chance of winning it. So a total of $3,000 of ChampCar credit being given out to participants and the champion in the ChampCar iRacing series. With all that said, we come to round 12 here at Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, Ohio, and the car of choice, the Pontiac Solstice. So not high horsepower, but definitely a close racing car, front engine, rear wheel drive, so it's that kind of dynamic to it. Challenging to flow the speed and the momentum across the corners, particularly at the back end of this circuit after the long back straight and the pit straight. For our coverage here on HJBC, I'm David Haynes, joined by Devin Peters. We've got Michael Derby in the virtual production truck. Devin, have you been to Mid-Ohio? I've been to Mid-Ohio. I think it's a pretty swell little facility.
I haven't had the opportunity yet. They got to get me out of the booth and back onto the racetrack. Maybe I'll come for that prize next year, and show them what's what.
Fair enough. So it's qualifying underway right now. Sorry, I was just trying to catch where we're up to. And yeah, qualifying right now before we get into our 1 hour race, which is going to have a compulsory pit stop in it. That's because everyone is running on the same setup. We'll start the race on the same amount of fuel. It's going to see them need the pit lane at least once. Got a decent handful of drivers out there, and as qualifying works its way towards its end with about 7 minutes left, it is oh so close. Ian Giebler is top of the times right now by a stunning 0.02 of a second over Nicholas Love. Am I? Okay, yeah, well, it's close. It's mighty, mighty close, because then just a 1/10 behind that is Mark McCormick, the defending champion and points leader. Another 0.02 behind that, Shane Cameron. Got Tim Wire, got Justin Hall, got Alex Albert, got John Wilding, and then Andrew Cosick and Jordan Butler are almost tied. It's under half a second for our top 10 right now. And then Sean Saputra and Kyle Robertson are only 100ths of a second behind that as well. So your top 12 are all super close to each other in this qualifying session.
Yeah, it's wicked close out there, and watching these guys pushing as hard as they can in the qualifying session, they're really showing off how stiff and how challenging to drive these Solstice are actually with the current tire model. If you really want to get the last little bit out of these things, you're going to be right on the limit. And we've already seen on the broadcast a couple guys facing the wrong way, throwing up some smoke, and I expect to see more of that while we're racing today.
So a good handful of teammates out there. I've seen a couple of the level 1 racing guys trying to work together. There's a couple of drivers from Love Racing as well.
Yeah, definitely some different names up at the top. The ChampCar iRacing series featuring 4 cars this year, 5 cars, 5 cars. It really allows for some different specialties, but you wouldn't think there'd be that much of a difference between the Mazda Miata and the Solstice. But anyone who's driven both knows that there is.
Yeah, Mazda is still in business, and Pontiac got taken quietly out the back. Yeah, so we were in the Ford Mustang last round out 2 weeks ago at Circuit of the Americas. Make this change into the Pontiac Solstice. It returns for the, I think, first time since Lime Rock Park in April.
Yeah, and Lime Rock was a great race. If I recall correctly, it was very tight right until the end. You can always get a little bit of that at the Bull Ring, but more than most, I'd say.
Yeah, and then it's got one more outing in 2 rounds' time. The Great White North at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park for October 5th. But the next round is Road America in that Miata NC, September 21st. And then we've got the Volkswagen Jetta and the Ford Mustang to bring us home at VIR North, and the 2-hour finale at Sebring. I'm looking forward to that quite a bit.
Always good times to be had out in Florida.
There's a look at the season schedule. Of course, we find ourselves at round 12, having been to some of the greatest road racing courses that North America has to offer. Bucket list tracks that you might see in IndyCar, IMSA, and other top-level competition are not out of reach to you and I and anyone. So it's awesome that we get them. It's awesome that we've got them 1-to-1 laser replicated on iRacing as well, because there's no real replacement for getting in a race car, but you really do learn a lot and an appreciation and lots of little things from this perfect recreation of the proportions, the dimensions, the bumps, the camber.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen another sim that really replicates the way the turn 2 kind of drops away from you here. It gets nice and flat on the way in, and then drops away all the way through that right-hander. It's a special kind of feeling. Very different.
Yeah, of course, we've had Road Atlanta, VIR, Daytona, Watkins Glen, Laguna Seca, Kota, awesome tracks and some good ones still to come. In fact, I think we close this championship out with some fantastic circuits. Road America to come next round. Canadian Tire Motorsport Park for our second trip to Canada in this schedule. VIR North and Sebring. Excited for that. Not long left in this qualifying session. Are we seeing much movement at all? Because conditions can change a lot over an hour with clouds, with sun, with the track temperature, with lots of cars out there either gripping it up or dirtying it up, depending on, the tires, the racing lines, how it quite works out.
Well, you've called it. We've just actually seen a move at the top. Mark McCormick has found a little bit of shade. I think there was a little bit of cloud cover there helping out, and put in a 142.1. So Mark reclaiming his spot at the top of the field, where we've seen him quite a bit this season, and we'll see if he's able to hold on to that. This race.
Pull up some sectors, see if I can see much change happening. Jordan Butler had some personal best sectors, but didn't manage to string it all together into an improvement.
Yeah, I was going to say there's some cloud cover right now that seems to be dropping the track temperature just a little bit, and I think there's a few guys that have kind of seized the moment here. hot one out there today. It's 34 degrees Celsius up here, 93 Fahrenheit, both in Regina, where I'm recording from, and in Mid-Ohio, apparently.
Well, checkered flags out on the session, so drivers can complete their laps, but they're not going to get another one. Mark McCormick, oh, he was on 2 green sectors, but he's not going to be able to improve from that. Is his pole position still safe? About half of the field not on circuit at the moment aren't going to be able to usurp him.
I think the only one with a real chance is maybe Shane Cameron.
He's just lost more than 2/10 in the second sector, so I think that's that for him, unfortunately.
It's a tricky track with these kind of flowing corners through the back half of it. You know, there's a lot of places where if you get a little bit behind, it's really hard to get yourself back online without giving up a lot of time.
Yeah, there's no forgiveness with this circuit in this car as well. For example, you get that turn 2 just a little bit wrong, it's going to cost you time and pain all the way down that straight. Every corner has a very significant effect on the speed you carry off it, and it's all about the momentum. No one would call the gearing in this car particularly optimal. Sort of third gear feels maybe a little too short, fourth gear is a little too tall, and you're bouncing around between those two, and neither of them feel perfectly optimal. So when you are in fourth, carrying that momentum is so key, because this isn't the supercharged version of the Solstice.
Yeah, it definitely shows its 2-liter side when you get driving it. Of course, one of the nice things about the simulator is that you don't have to drive it all the way back to the garage if you don't want to. So we see Shane Cameron showing that feature off.
So it might be just Jordan Butler. No, out there at the moment. Who is it? Yeah, Jordan Butler. I think he's already taken the checkered flag and he's just coasting it around. His Butler, my goodness, his buddy, his teammate, John Wilding is up in 8th, so not much separates those two either.
Yeah, I was watching
Sebring. They were racing there in their Miata, so I'm sure they're looking forward to it as well.
I believe it. I was watching them during the qualifying session here, and they were nose to tail. It seemed like they were trying to work together a little bit to, whether it was find a little bit of draft or work on the line a little bit. But kind of one of the benefits of this ChampCar series, making connections, meeting people from across the country. Don't have to rely on your small town to give you road racing fans when you can do it online.
So let's take a look at that grid then. Mark McCormick has the pole position. Ian Giebler is going to start alongside him. Nick Love and Shane Cameron are row number 2. Row number 3 is Tim Wire and Alex Albert. Justin Hall and John Wilding on row number 4. Andrew Kosick and Jordan Butler are row number 5 of our 21 car field. Got Sean Saputra and Kyle Robertson back behind them, and Orlando Herrell, Aaron Thorpe, David Palermo, Patrick Persley, Charles Kowalczyk, Scott Grinnell, Mark Kruger, Greg Vandervert, and Jared Kubert. 3 drivers in this field are listed as Club Ohio. So for Ian Giebler, Tim Wire, and Andrew Kosick, they'll be hoping to stake claim to home territory.
Yeah, and there's something to be said for seat time. I wouldn't be surprised to hear that all those guys have spent a good amount of laps around here.
So we get a truncated pace lap with the field forming up, what do they call it, Thunder Valley there. And I do believe the green flag gets dropped on the pit straight, not before turn 3 as some series do. IndyCar, of course, most notably.
Yeah, it's kind of fun how they've offset the start and finish lines here, depending on what you're racing, of course.
So we're going to get going. McCormick's going to sit them back a little distance from the pace car, and our fleet of Pontiac Solstice roll into action. The final corner, hairpin, you want to float speed in, but not wash out wide and take the long route. McCormick has it pretty handy. Ian Giebler caught napping to some extent. Drops back into third place as they do get that green flag on the pit straight. Roll into turn number 1 underneath the bridge. Another place super key to float the speed and the momentum. But on these treaded tires, when they're cold, they can behave a little strangely.
Yeah, definitely got to give it a few seconds here. We're seeing some overlap back in the field. John Wilding looks to be making the move up the inside of Justin Hall, and he shows him certainly leaving the door wide open for Jordan Butler, as well as Justin Hall puts all 4 off on the exit. We got another one off with all 4 as well. That looks to be Shane Cameron, costing himself a lot of pace down the front or down the second straight there.
So John Wilding and Jordan Butler working together. They're going to both push on past down towards the sort of turn number 3 area here, China Beach. And you go up over the crest, swapping back, changing directions, and carrying that speed, but also taking the shortest run. Really, really important for this car, especially close as it is. And everyone's still in line, following the tracks at the moment almost.
Yeah, I think we had a few folks, judging by the amount of tire tracks outside of turn 1, I think we had a few folks caught out by the cold tires this time.
Track temperature still similar to how it finished qualifying. And the field almost about to complete their first lap. It is a relatively quick, sort of 2.5 miles or so around this road course. So we are going to get plenty of laps into our 1 hour race window. With that first lap completed, Mark McCormick leads half a second from Nick Love, who's half a second from Ian Giebler, who's half a second from Tim Wire. So still everyone in this draft train, in this pack. Oh, big little wiggle on the exit of the turn number 1 there for Alex Albert as he got out wide on the grass. So easy to do. Trying to carry that momentum, like we say, didn't really pay off for him on that occasion.
He made that cone pay for it, though, that's for sure.
Down to 4/10 at the lead as Mark McCormick punches the Pontiac Solstice hole in the air for the whole field, coming down the longest straight of the circuit. Past that start gantry, it's down to 3/10 as the speed advantage for Nick Love in the slipstream is just a modest 2 miles an hour or so, but that accounts to just walking down the gap between the leader and second place.
Jordan Butler's just going to put a move on his teammate to take away 6th position. He and John Wilding, of course, teammates, as he mentioned, during the warm-up, and no love lost between them. We'll see if that was a planned move or if Butler really does have that extra bit of pace.
There's a lot of corners here where the up and down hill nature affects how you can approach it. They've just come through the right-hander there where the track drops away on the exit, but there is a problem for Scott Grinnell.
Oh, yeah.
And Giebler.
And Kyle Robertson. We've got a few cars off the track there. We'll have to get a replay on that one, see how that all unfolded.
Giebler's come from second place to drop it pretty big there. So I look back at it, and he has to wait almost for the whole field. He's done it himself. I don't know if he's had a problem with the gear shift or something, but the rear just let go over the left-hander here, looking at the replay, and then he couldn't catch it, couldn't save it. Not a huge impact with the wall, and he's got it going, but he lost an incredible amount of time to the whole field, and he's pulled it on towards pit lane. He was in second, trying to hunt that leader.
Yeah, that car didn't look like it was pointed and everything the right way by the time he exited. As a chain reaction, we saw a couple other cars, Orlando Harrell and Sean Putra, looking a little bit out of shape. And then we also saw, I believe that was, whose car? Grinnell's, I think, that we saw into the wall as well. So a few cars there kind of getting a little bit shaken as they saw other cars spinning ahead.
Elevates Nick Love up in the second place, and he's almost taken over that role that Giebler was playing. Now half a second back off your race leader, but it opens up this gap and this gulf between the top two and the rest, where Tim Wire leads Alex Albert from Jordan Butler from John Wilding, and those guys are packed in super close there over what's now the third position.
Yeah, and there's nothing Mark McCormick would like to do than run away with this thing. So it's down to Nick Love to try and reel him back in right now.
Love's had a scruffy time and dropped about half a second to McCormick. Meanwhile, I think Wire starting to feel the pressure here from Albert, from Jordan Butler, who started 10th, now running 5th, and in this group that's in 3rd place. Podium not out of his reach at all. Seems like there's quite a technical aspect to that turn number 1. You've got the pit exit that's protected by that large yellow curb, but it seems like the fast line is to get some tyre, but not all the tyre, but some of the tyre up on it. And some understeer setting in for Tim Wire there at turn 2. Finds himself under big pressure.
Yeah, Alex Albert's got a nice little run here. He's got a big draft down this straightaway. Looks outside. Wire's going to give him the room and go defensive. Now, the pass might not be here. It might be on for the next corner, so we'll have to keep an eye. Alex gets a little bit of overlap on the outside. He's going to take the inside over into 5. And with that, he takes the spot. And so does Jordan Butler, seizing the opportunity, leaving room for Wire, but he doesn't have to leave much. He's already got nearly full overlap, and sure enough, he drives the way with that one.
That's why the grandstand is at those corners. That's why people pack the hill there. You get moves like that. Really ambitious to break deep around the outside, keep it on the track, and steal away the apex at the left-hander at the top of the hill. And once you're offline, you can get swallowed up by another driver. What's happening a bit further back in the pack?
Oh, I was just enjoying John Wilding as he slid all 4 tires off on the exit, kept it foot to the floor, and didn't lose a thing, pointing it the right way as he came back on the track. That was pretty slick. John Wilding, of course, in that 126 car. And you can kind of see him taking that line we were talking about where he goes over the inside curb into turn 1, really hits the square edge of the curb. And it seems the car likes that. He's going to have to watch out, though, because Alex Albert's trying to make a move around the outside.
Justin Hall's here. Oh, there's contact. Wire off as Wilding and then Justin Hall both make contact with him at turn number 2.
It looked like Wire went to take the kind of inside line after he saw that Wilding was diving on him, and 2 lines into 1 does not go, and Wire definitely lost that one. I think a little bit of net coat helped him end up facing into the wall.
Super unfortunate. I mean, we talked about how close those qualifying times were. Everyone racing each other super close, and a little bit of contact has gone the wrong way. Luckily, there weren't Andretti teammates. How about up front, though?
Yeah, I'm noticing McCormick still pulling away a little bit, but Nicholas Love's definitely keeping him under pressure.
It was out to 9/10, and now we'll see what it is as they cross the line. Love might have gone in a little deep into that penultimate corner, but it's hard to know. There are some different lines. Some drivers will point it more towards the apex, take that short run, whereas depending on the car, depending on the conditions, you can maybe turn in a bit later for that later apex and hope that getting the throttle open earlier gets you a better run down the pit straight. What you can say for sure is Nick Love's 4/10 back as they go down the straight here, and you definitely get a 1/10 of a second or more with that slipstream down the long straight here. Again, Mark McCormick thinking about the shorter line around the corner. Nick Love going for the later apex, hopefully better traction. 3.5 tenths, 3/10. It's closing up.
And these things are fully strung out by the end of the straightaway. Nearly 110 miles an hour. Nice line from Nick Love there. I like the way he did turn 5 that time. Gave him a little bit of ground by the looks of things.
So these two guys currently in a little bit of a class of their own. Mark McCormick's got the fastest lap of the race, a 1:41.9. Nick Love's just a hundredth or so slower than that. No one else into that 141 bracket. You've got a 142.338 from Alex Albert, which I'm sure will be killing him. He wasn't a thousandth of a second quicker. But just, a couple tenths of a second, these two pulling away from everyone else. And I think Nick Love's doing a great job right now as far as the racecraft is considered for the Pontiac Solstice and the way it races. But if there ends up being 1.5 seconds between him and McCormick, I'm not sure he's going to be able to so easily close that down.
That makes sense. I'm watching a little further back down that front straightaway. I'm watching Shane Cameron and John Wilding. They've kind of closed things back up, and Cameron actually had a little bit of overlap last time down the start-finish straight. We'll see if he does this turn number 2 here, the keyhole, enough better. Oh, big dive up the inside. John Wilding gets a taste of his own medicine that time.
That was kind of on the limit of what you think should be fair for these kind of cars and this kind of racing, but I think it was on. He did a good enough job of holding his inside line. The thing is, he's right back in a compromised position with the driver. He might have just cheesed off a little bit. So what's going to happen here is the bump draft on, even though they're not teammates. That's what it looked like to me.
Yeah, Shane Cameron looked a little bit squirrely getting in there, but the bump draft does make a difference here. Can't use it on a qualifying lap, of course, but race, that's a whole different story.
Yeah, super interesting little strategy. So I guess the thought from John Wilding here is I want us to get back up to catching Alex Albert, Jordan Butler, and Justin Hall. That those podium positions are getting away from me. We'll dig through the grass on the exit to that right-hander again. You come over the crest, you get past the apex, and the track just starts dropping away. It wants you to go out wide. You got to know that as you turn in, how much speed you can get, how much speed you can carry.
Really clean, smooth racing all the way up and down the field. Lots of guys.
It's how you've got to be in this car, isn't it? If you get it a bit sideways, you're not gaining any time.
Speaking of a bit sideways, I've just jumped on board with Charles Kowalczyk as he tries out the Tokyo Drift line through turn number 6. Looked like he got a little bit of the left side into the grass on the way through the turn there, and the whole thing jumped out sideways on him. Good catch, though.
Deceptively tricky little circuit. From the track plan above, it doesn't look like too much, but with the shape of the curbs in some different places, with the elevation, particularly sort of your turns 3, 4, and 5, every corner has its unique little challenge, and this is a car that makes you be millimeter perfect to carry your flow and your momentum. You get in a little hot to a corner and you start pushing wide, you can't save it. You get a little bit of a slide on by cutting too much of one of the apex curbs, you're going to lose time that you can't get back. So it forces you to try to drive it at 95%, and that's a challenge.
Greg Vandervert and Mark Kruger battling over 11th and 12th place, and kind of showing a good example of that. The two of them racing with a lot of respect, I got to say, last time by Vandervert kind of made had a little line going to the left down the straightaway, and Kruger was in there with a little bit of overlap, but he gave way to Vandervert last time. We'll see if he makes the same decision as they go through turn 1 and down toward the keyhole this time by.
Yeah, both of these guys started 19th and 20th on the grid. They're racing up here, having a jolly good time. Two names we see basically every round of the championship, so they could well be in with a chance having their name in the hat for winning some delicious ChampCar credits that would take him towards some more racing. But Mark Kruger, I reckon, is shaping up for this one. He's got it. He's got his nose in front to 11th place, despite getting a bit too much apex curb at turn 1 and kicking it sideways, kicking those cones around like we saw. I think he might have this one.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, Kruger takes a slightly different line than Vanvert through China Beach there, and he kind of, because his line's so different, I think it kind of threw Vanvert off, because Vanvert was previously taking about 2-3 tenths and then losing it kind of on the back half of the circuit here. So, positioning all important on the track, especially when you're trying to time a run. Really a driver's track out here.
So that's 15 minutes of the race gone. Recapping, Mark McCormick still leads. Nick Love right in his slipstream, going right along with him. Then it's all the battle over behind Alex Albert, Justin Hall, Jordan Butler, Shane Cameron. There's only about 2 seconds to separate all of those guys in that fight.
And if it looks like there's a few extra cars we weren't talking about, that's because there's a bunch of lap traffic in the middle of all that too.
Yeah, short little track, especially compared to the VIR full layout or COTA like we were last round. A lot easier to have a spin, go through pit lane, and suddenly, I'm a whole lap down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they'll be coming up on David Palermo next, and Palermo, experienced driver with the series, so he'll know what to do when the blue flags come out, but doesn't guarantee that Nick Love won't have a chance here, and Nick Love certainly keeping it close enough to give himself a chance.
So, I point out, Shane Cameron was able to catch that next group of cars and drop John Wilding in the process. So, he lost out a bit on lap 1, didn't he? And now he's right back in with a podium chance.
He's moving up there. It looked like he was going to maybe make a late move on Jordan Butler. You got to be feeling a little uncomfortable if you're Butler sitting in the middle of this pack of yellow and blue Solsty. Of course, being driven by drivers affiliated with the HJ team.
Yeah, it's a group of 4 Miata drivers right here.
Yeah, out of their element.
Yeah, stringing the motor all the way out on every single shift, trying to preserve momentum through corners.
Yeah, it's like all the things that make a Miata good, but less. I've got some love in my heart for the Solstice. Of course, the Pontiac Solstice was one of the original cars, I believe, with iRacing way back in the day, and was certainly one of the original rookie series that you could do back in the early days of the sim.
Because, of course, it functionally got replaced with the NC2 Miata Cup car. That's being the facelift of the NC, and wasn't even available till 2010, 2011-ish.
A little bit of excitement up at the front here. Palermo, unintentionally, I think, a little bit in the way of McCormick as the two of them were trying to get by. And now Palermo on the outside, Nick Love trying to hold it. Both of them getting a little bit compromised. We'll see who makes the best of it. Ooh, it's tough if you're Nick Love. You really wish you could have tracked out all the way. And that's going to cost him a few tenths. We'll see if that's enough to break the draft here as they go into the keyhole.
Kind of got to get out past the second, which it hasn't. The real question is how much does it disturb the flow and the focus of someone like Nick Love? And I think the answer is nothing, because half a second right now, he's right where he needs to be. And the long shot, you see your next group of drivers behind, all 4 of them. So still top 6 covered by 5.5 seconds. There is 4 in between Nick Love in second and Alex Albert in third at the moment.
Yeah, and despite the fact that Nick Love hasn't had a great season from a points perspective, he's definitely been in contention for a few races this year, and been kind of right up there, and then gotten a little bit unlucky, whether it's with traffic or being on the wrong end of some contact. But he's definitely not one to doubt here, especially given how close qualifying was.
So how might the traffic play out for this next group of drivers, spearheaded by Alex Albert? Justin Hall behind there. Shane Cameron getting a bit wild and loose with his line through the final corner.
This is kind of interesting how these guys are all managing like within a tenth of each other, and they're all doing it very different ways.
And you see how much of that turn 1 curb the drivers grab. Albert has a wiggle, picking up that dirt on the outside again. Looks to defend the inside. Justin Hall goes around the outside. Devin Peters' chair squeaks. And Jordan Butler might have a chance to nip down the inside here. He's going to try it. So that punch is being thrown.
Yeah, not quite enough of a run there. It's you can kind of pinch your exit a little bit there, but with the way the track drops away, you kind of give up a little bit too while you're trying to accelerate on the exit. And now Butler's going to pay the price, of course. Shane Cameron gets a little bit of overlap. Late braking, and Palermo out in front, just waiting to play spoiler on them. Shane Cameron holds the inside line over 5, and he's going to have the outside now going into 6. Not a good place to be. He gives the spot up. Butler's going to take it away, and these guys up ahead Alex Albert cannot get around David Palermo.
Palermo runs it wide-ish, so Albert's going to look to the right. He gets through.
If we had a GoPro inside the real cockpit, I've seen Alex Albert in this situation before.
Now just can't even fit another Solstice in here between Hall and Butler and Cameron.
Oh, and Hall is trying to find his way too. Palermo's not doing anything wrong here. He's definitely not getting out of the way, which, if you're a leader, that's what you're begging for, but it doesn't have to. Those are informational blue flags out there. You do your best. Wow, and a little bit loose. Butler, ooh. And Butler makes some room. Oh, and that's going to cost Cameron. Oh. I think he managed to avoid the worst of it there. It cost him some time, but I don't think he damaged the car.
Well, I hope he had his bow tie and suit jacket on, because Butler just gave Palermo a little serve.
Ooh. Yeah, that was...
Shane Cameron might have finished the job.
Yeah, that was tough all the way. These things... It seems like they must be really, really stiffly sprung, because not only are they kind of picking up the inside front tire on the way into the corner, they also seem to be really, really hard to get back from the slide once they get wagging the rear end.
Yeah,
maybe they're really soft. I don't know.
Have looked a little maybe understeery at points, but then when you upset the car, that sort of weak front end doesn't let you correct it either. We saw it very early with Ian Giebler. It looked like a pretty simple little snap, but it just kept going, like when you get past the limit of grip in a Porsche Cup car or something. That sort of pendulum effect, once it's going, it's going.
It's probably to do with how this car is just made out of bits of every single other thing the GM was making around this era, but who knows?
So we've seen a couple of pit stops already. We haven't seen the sort of expected pit stops out of our leaders yet. Typically, you want to run a bit longer so you don't get caught in any traffic, seeing how costly that can be. But there are a few drivers who've, spun or made contact with the wall, who've been through pit lane for a little bit of repairs, and at that time, taken the fuel that will get them to the end. So Tim Wyer, Kyle Robertson, Sean Saputra, Ian Giebler have cleared their required pit stop, taken their necessary service to get them to the end. So they could still be a factor given their cars that are on the lead lap and have made their pit stops. Scott Grinnell a little further back is still on the lead lap. And Aaron Thorpe has pitted is off the lead lap. Charles Kowalczyk has pitted a couple of times and might be 2 laps down. So still do not count out people like Tim Wire, Kyle Robertson, Sean Saputra, Ian Giebler from top 10, dare I say even top 5 potentially. But maybe not if this group, Albert, Hall, Butler, Cameron, keep it clean. Butler almost Morse code to Justin Hall's rear bumper though. So he doesn't want Alex Albert to get away.
To be fair, I don't think Justin Hall wants it either, but Alex is still managing to find a little bit of a gap. Of course, it doesn't seem like anybody here has anything for the top 2 that are now nearly 6 seconds clear.
As that difference aligns through they call it carousel? Every track seems to need to have a corner called carousel.
Yeah, but this is the carousel. Capital T. Who knows?
Okay, because Nürburgring's got the carousel capital K.
Yes, yeah. Justin Hall got a big run that time through 1. Really seemed to get that right. Alex Albert once in a while. Ooh, and Alex Albert, speaking of, pushes it real wide. It's easy to get that braking wrong into turn number 1. Looking up the road, I'm seeing Nick Love doing some exciting stuff too. He's up alongside Mark McCormick after a little issue for McCormick.
It's ever been for the lead. Nick Love had his nose down the inside for turn number 3 there and thought, no. But he was super, super close. Less than a tenth in it. Nick Love overlapped, looking at the inside of the corner, and then, perplexingly, thinking better of it.
You know, I've watched Mark McCormick win a few races by lifting and coasting and saving some fuel, and I wonder if there's a little bit of gamesmanship going on between these two. Hearing on the broadcast that they're 6 seconds clear, all of a sudden thinking, hey, I'd rather be 6 seconds clear and in second place. Can you give me some of that draft? You know?
Next closest car's on the track. It's just behind them, though, with Justin Hall and Jordan Butler.
Yeah, those two, I would say, have not been doing the let's see if we can save some fuel. It's been pretty bare knuckle between those guys at different points.
Not necessarily scintillating racing, but it is close quarters, high stakes at the moment.
Yeah, and more lap traffic kind of filtering out ahead of these guys. Now Alex Albert will be coming up on Patrick Pursley, and our leaders are staring at the green rear end of Jared Cubitt just ahead too, though Cubitt's diving off to the inside, making sure he stays well out of the way of these leaders as they go by. Lots of traffic around. Got John Wilding taken to the grass. Not sure what that's all about.
Not sure either, but I wonder if any of these guys start to think the traffic's only got to cost me 1 second on a lap for it to be time that I'm never going to reclaim or get back, and maybe it's worth jumping through the pit lane. Alex Albert's got a pretty full-on little view here as they work their way past Jared Cubitt, no worries. And it's Patrick Pursley next up.
Yeah, if I'm Albert, I'm starting to think about that pit lane because this is getting a little bit tiring, you know? Ooh.
And it is an interesting little pit entry here as well, around the outside of the corner. Alex Albert, yep, right on cue. These guys are saying not to this traffic, jumping in, and he's followed by Justin Hall and Jordan Butler. So race of the crews on the lane. Shane Cameron also in. We'll see how hard these guys are willing to push that pit lane speed limiter. Justin Hall a little close, that pit lane speed limit, because there is no electronic limiter in these cars. They are pretty much a road car, and the cruise control doesn't go that slow. So how much fuel, how much service? I'm seeing left sides for a couple of guys. Does that mean there's going to be rights as well? Looks like potentially left sides only is the game for most drivers.
Wow, he jumps a spot. Cameron, looks like Cameron's taken all 4. Meanwhile,
Yeah, so it's been 16, 17 seconds from the others and 20 from Shane Cameron, where he took all 4. So, whew.
I'm curious to see who got that one right. I can't imagine these tires dropping off that much, but then again, we have seen, some cars where the fresh tires can be worth enough to justify the extra 3 seconds, that you're taking on the stop.
It's all about an undercut, isn't it? It's all about this next 2 laps. The new tires are going to give you more performance. I don't think there really is a difference between 30-lap-old tires and 60-lap-old tires. They're warm, worn tires. But for this first 2 or 3 laps, you might, be able to go just that little bit quicker before the tires then revert to their I'm not a brand new road car tire state. For example, Mark McCormick's best lap in this race, a 41.9, but his last a 42.6. So if there is just half a second for the next 2 or 3 laps in this, then there's an undercut to be had.
Yeah, and things are looking spicy between Butler and Alex right now. Butler, he's made his way past Cameron. He's made his way past Hall. Now he's got his sights set on the third HJ car there. He definitely doesn't want to waste any time though in this battle here.
No, leaders continue to stay out, so you've now got more drivers who've pitted than haven't. So the drivers who haven't stopped, your top 4 running on track: Mark McCormick, Nick Love, Andrew Kosick, and Orlando Herrell. And then you've also got Greg Vandervert, Mark Kruger, and Jared Cubitt, who haven't stopped yet. Right on cue, though, Mark Kruger is into the lane. Alex Albert, his trademark 2 tires in the dirt off the exit of turn 1. Not so much of a slide or a panic this time, but look at Butler, just front bumper to rear bumper, but no overlap.
And Butler just wiggling the car in the mirrors, playing the games. It's fun to see. I'm kind of watching these leaders. I'm curious to see just how far they can take it. We've got 4 guys that haven't pit yet. All of them 18 laps in.
Yeah, it made sense that the 3 we're watching now who did stopped when they did, given the traffic situation. Oh, Jared Cubitt. Too kind. Yeah, given the traffic situation, I didn't think they were at the end of the fuel range. It really looked like Alex Albert decided, I'm not getting held up behind this. And then Jordan Butler's gone, well, hang on, if Alex Albert pits and I end up stuck behind this traffic, I'm going to get massively undercut. And then the domino effect goes backwards to Justin Hall and Shane Cameron, who have done exactly the same numbers and reached the same conclusion that if I'm the one who stays out in this traffic and those guys pit, I'm cooked.
Yeah, I can't say it any different. It's very tight. The margins are very fine right now. I'm curious to see which one of Nick Love and Mark McCormick will blink first. I think that's going to be really critical. And if Nick Love has been able to save enough fuel, he only needs to have 6 or 7 tenths to be able to overtake McCormick on the way out of the pits.
Yeah, the cost-benefit analysis here for Nick Love is how much would I gain with an undercut? You don't really know at this point. How much would I lose not having this slipstream and this tow? And the answer for Nick Love is probably you don't want to let McCormick out of your sight. So while he stays out, you stay out. When he pits in, you pit in.
And crucially, they're still faster than 3rd through 5th this last time by. Even with those guys getting fresh tires on one side, they're still lapping faster.
Yeah, I want to see this next lap from Albert and Butler and Justin Hall, because Justin Hall was the fastest car on the track, but only by about a tenth over Nick Love, not that half a second that was maybe possible. So they're about to come to the timing line and update. And for Albert, 42.6, 42.8, 42.6. So they've got a couple of tenths by stopping earlier, but the reality is it's not a second a lap. It's not half a second a lap. It looks like it's 3 or 4 tenths. Remember, there was 4 seconds between Nick Love and Albert before the pit stops. So I don't think they're undercutting the leaders. They were trying to battle off against each other.
Yeah. McCormick and Nick Love are coming up on some lap traffic again. And Justin Hall's just gotten by Jordan Butler by the looks of things.
Yeah, is Butler going to try to strike back, or is he going to let him have this one? He's thinking about letting him have that one just for the moment. So that holds up their speed a little bit. But the group is kind of limited by what is the pace that the guy up front is doing, like a cycling peloton or something, you know. They can afford to give away a little bit so long as they stay within this draft range of Albert.
Yeah, and it really does seem like it's easy enough to get within 3 tenths, but it's tough to get over that last little 3 tenths hump.
Ooh, little grass cutting line there for Justin Hall. He just manages to get on away with. How about this lap then for Albert and Hall? 42.5 for Justin Hall, despite that battling. So again, Justin Hall's the fastest car on circuit, and again, Albert pulls 2 tenths. Gosh, he wishes. 2 tenths out of the leaders, just managing to lap a little quicker than them. So there's a chance that we see McCormick and Love go through the lane and only be 2 seconds clear of this pack. If the stop runs a little long and they find themselves coming out of the lane only just in front, if Albert or Hall or Butler can get that toe, then it'd be a very spicy end to this one.
Yeah, that's that critical toe will kind of decide how big of a pack we get here at the end of the race. Glove. Oh,
Here comes McCormick. Nick Love stays out. So your race leader, Mark McCormick, into the pit lane. Nick Love goes for one more lap, hoping potentially to overcut Mark McCormick. What's the service going to be? Remember, Albert and the others took left side tires only in addition to their fuel. Diamonding it off for the best exit. Oh, Mark McCormick's overshot his pit box. He's had to find reverse gear. He's had to crawl it back, and that will have cost him 2 or 3 seconds. That was pretty big in the grand scheme of things. Left side tires only for McCormick, but he is going to rue overshooting his crew. Here he goes, back out to the track. Albert passing the start finish line at full race speed with tires that are warm. McCormick on the circuit, but it was a quick stop once he got back in the box.
Yeah, he took only as much fuel as about Jordan Butler, which was about the least we've seen. But critically, that error on the exit, and the ironic thing is that the pace car in iRacing is not a physical object. You can drive right through it. So, you know, the diamonding, it makes a little bit of sense to try and get a straight run off the exit, but it's certainly not mandatory. He'll be kicking himself over that one. Now, the curious thing will be to see if Nick Love decides that this lap is the one to go, or if he's got enough fuel that he decides to do a couple more.
Yeah, so McCormick is safe to Albert, Hall, and Butler, but he might not be safe to Nick Love, who's coming past the pit entry now and taking it. So if this can be a really tidy stop for Nick Love, he could be in an even more handsome position going down the lane, looking for his crew. Love qualified in third place. So he has the third pit stall closest to the exit. He hits it square on, no dramas. Fueling begins, but I don't see those left tires. So this looks fuel only for Nick Love. He'll be hoping it's tidy. He'll be hoping it's shorter than the 16 seconds, but it's not. It's longer. It's 18 for Nick Love.
Someone needs to teach Nick to turn off the fuel gun. Yelling at the crew guys. I feel like I've seen that at Indy before.
He's still ahead of McCormick, though.
Not by much.
Speed. McCormick's going to look for the inside. Surely he is, for the race lead on pit exit, the outlap for Nick Love. He's just short of holding on to that race lead.
Good stuff from Nick, from Mark there.
Yeah, for Nick Love, though, I think the consolation is he's right back where he was before that pit stop, in position with the race leader. So we still need Orlando Herald to pit. And then the order will be McCormick, Love, Albert, Hall, Butler.
That must have been a hell of an outlap for McCormick there. Got a little help, of course, from the extra fuel, but he must have been really pushing. But yeah, if you're Albert, if you're Hall, you can see the competition just ahead of you. And a little bit of clean driving, and you're going to be right in those rear view mirrors. And Butler's trying to hold on to the draft ahead of him.
When everyone is so close on track, it totally comes down to that 1.5 seconds, give or take, in the pit lane, as Orlando Herald will be the last driver to pit. You know, for McCormick, when you overshot that pit box, you're like, there goes 2 seconds, a very important 2 seconds. But then he has just a slightly quicker service. So the end result is that the pit in to pit exit time for McCormick was only 1 second longer than it was for Nick Love.
Yeah. And I don't know if you've noticed, but those HJ cars, they're bumping into each other down the straightaways, trying to get back.
Dang all huge ass boys, but they are not matching the speed that Mark McCormick has with his newer tyres. 42.3 for McCormick is the fastest lap time we've seen in a long time. Remember that Justin Hall had a 42.5 when he was clawing back the lead, but now McCormick's another 0.2 underneath that. So the new tyres lap time from Hall, not as good as McCormick's doing now late on.
Yeah, and humidity's picking up and temperatures dropping, so I'd be looking to the skies if I were there in real life. As it is, the track conditions are definitely changing.
You think we might get mud Ohio? That's what I've heard it called after rain, is that various bits of the infield and the general admission parking become very, very squelchy.
I could almost believe it. I'll have to wait on iRacing to implement rain fully, I think, before we get Mud Ohio, though.
It's that Amish soil, I'm led to believe.
Oh, yes.
So 0.8 in the gap for the lead. Bump drafting in the gap between third and fourth is the state of play now. All the pit stops cleared, everyone good to race to the end.
Yeah, and despite the bump drafting efforts behind them, Alex Albert and Justin Hall were still 0.3 off of Mark McCormick and 1/10 almost off of Nick Love ahead. So they're not going the right way right now, but they are certainly working together and working hard to try and make up the ground.
Shoutouts further down the field then. Looks like Andrew Cosick and Tim Wire, 0.5 second apart. Sean Saputra and Orlando Herald 8/10 apart, as Orlando Herald's on his first flying lap after his pit stop, running it really, really long.
Yeah, he was longest runner on the first stint, and had a pretty long pit stop, all things considered. But he will be on the freshest tires of anyone around him, and it looks like he's got his sights set on Sean Spudger and Tim Wire ahead. Correction, that's actually Charles Kowalczyk in a Love team car ahead. But yeah, the two of them, and they're getting some room from the team car as well. The two of them will be battling here pretty quick.
Yeah, again, very tidily done. I think key amongst this tyre change is just getting that front end bite back for the changes of direction, the long corners, particularly at the end of the lap there, and at turn 2 as well, is, you can break the car in deep, and when you turn towards the apex, it's not going to skid on, it's actually going to take it. So great speed through the apex at turn number 1 for Orlando Herald. Sean Saputra immediately goes defensive. Orlando Herald doesn't seem to fancy going all the way around the outside. He wants to cut over under, but didn't look completely aware of where the other driver was. But you can see the cornering speed that this gives Orlando Herald. Mark McCormick making that point as well, because he's just gone a 42.1, only 2/10 short of the fastest lap of the race, and he's zipping along as well. So the weather change, the tire change, certainly bringing back some of the confidence in the car to a few of the drivers.
Well, and still maintaining that gap back to Alex Albert and Just Hall, and actually growing it by nearly half a second last time by. So, if anything, I'd have to say that this battle between the HJ cars is starting to look like a battle for third place.
Yeah, and the no tyres for Nick Love is starting to cost him here, because through these corners, he's just losing his grip on where Mark McCormick is. He gets some of it back with the long straights in combination of the pit straight down towards the keyhole, and then the longest straight, highest top speeds on the track down towards turn number 3. Then you get into that other half of the sector, the Jekyll versus Hyde of Mid-Ohio, where it's, China Beach and up over the hill and then through the S's, and then the change of direction as the track drops away, and then quick flick at Thunder Valley into the carousel, where you really need the bite and the grip and the turn that McCormick's got, that Love doesn't quite seem to have. So 6.5 as they get to here, half a second across the top of the hill. If he's clean and if he's tidy, I think McCormick can leave Love in his dust in this sector.
Yeah, that difference seems to be growing and growing.
Because now it's out to 8/10. They flow the 90-degree right-hander over crest out to 9/10. And then whenever you've got one apex into another, like at the end here, it's a left-hander, and then you're immediately braking while you're turning, while you're braking, to a long right-hander to set up for the left-hander at the exit. It's briefly over a second there. So it goes from half a second at the end of the longest straight into about a second as they get here. Now Love back in place to cut it back.
Nick Love does seem to have a slightly better line than Mark through turn 1. Makes up a little bit of ground every time he comes down the straight here towards the keyhole, but he needs to find a few more places than that if he wants to make this thing work out for him. There's also the possibility that McCormick's going to have to do some fuel saving. Not sure how much he was able to save during that first stint.
I think time can be one of the bigger allies for Nick Love here as well, because our understanding on iRacing of these kind of tires, different to GT3 tires, different to NASCAR Cup Series tires, the type of tires you find on the Volkswagen Jetta, on the Pontiac Solstice, and these other road cars like the Ford Mustang or the street stock, although the street stock is its own thing, is that you put a new set on and you've got this, glory 3 or 4 laps, and then, worn tires are worn tires, whether they're 10 laps old or whether they're 60 laps old almost. So the advantage straight out of the pit stop for Mark McCormick, undeniable that this is a car that scrubs the front tires, heats them up, and the new tires give you more grip for those corners. But as it goes on and on and on, I think the advantage narrows and the gap between them performance-wise slims a little.
Mm-hmm. Really pretty line from Love through the last couple corners there, just really nailing the apexes, taking a little bit more as he got through there, catching himself back up, only down by about 700ths last time by, so real nail biter between those two. Ooh, a little bit of lockup there too from McCormick. I mean, I'd be feeling the pressure with Nick Love pushing the way he has been this whole race.
Yeah, has McCormick almost broken the toe this time around? He's been tempting it, he's been trying for it, but he hasn't, not yet this lap. Might be in a place to do it through the twisties.
Yeah. Nick Love, though, kind of coming back up on him. That classic accordion effect. What's the term I'm looking for here?
They were concertina potentially.
That's the one. But yeah, sure enough, he's looking a little closer as we go through the corners. But I think the stopwatch would argue that he's losing time. Not the only race on the track, though, I got to say. I've been kind of going back and forth between Andrew Kosick and Tim Wire, watching these two beautifully liveried cars. Wire, of course, with his B livery, repping honeybeebase.com. And then that looks like a slightly different car there from Kosick, running the Hello Kitty themed metallic blue livery today. But the two of them have been having a pretty good battle. Kosick's been holding Wire off for the last few laps, but Wire just keeps getting closer and closer. And as we come down to 5 to go, I have a feeling that this one might get even hotter in the next few laps.
Wire, of course, had to pit earlier than he wanted to and has been then trying to charge back through the field. Wire qualified 5th. For
those still wondering about the lead, down to 6/10 now between the two of them, so it's not over yet, but we'll stay with Wire and Saputra in case, Wire and Kosick in case they decide to get back into it here. Wire getting a little draft on the way towards China Beach. A lot of time to be had if you can get to the apex of turn number 4 there, and kind of crank it over the curb. Seems like a lot of guys are liking to do that.
Yeah, Wire is super close. Working the brake pedal differently as well. If you see the brake lights as they go into the corner, the lights are on deeper into the corner for Andrew Kosick. Well, Wire had used the brakes a little earlier into the corner and then off the entry curb, gotten the car turning and not needed to brake so deep into the corner. So they're using sort of different inputs to help get the car turned. Despite its, profile and wheelbase, it's something about the weight distribution in this car and the style of tires on it and the roll bars or whatever, that you are a lot more often fighting understeer than oversteer. Wire's got a look, but not close enough. Does he fool Kosick into outbraking himself a little bit? Not really, but might get another look down the end of this straight.
Up ahead, those watching the timing screen will see that Alex Albert and Justin Hall are more or less side by side, actually completely side by side for third and fourth place. And Hall has to finally tuck it back in after going too wide through China Beach and turn of 5 at the top of the hill there. But that battle's hot enough too as we're coming down to 3 to go. And McCormick's going to be coming up on some lap traffic too here in the next couple of laps as well. So there's a lot of potential little complicators between him and the end of this race here.
Remember the early laps of this race, it was everyone all in a line with the race lead. Nick Love just remains the one stubborn driver, not letting McCormick run away with this one, not letting him have any room for a mistake or to breathe.
Yeah, you can definitely feel the amount of focus that's going on up at the front of the field. Those two are running real clean and neat lines, and every time they go by, they're within hundreds of each other. Oh, contact between Justin Hall and Alex Albert going into turn number 2 there. Looked like Justin Hall tried to make the move around the outside, and a little bit of contact between the two, getting squeezed by Alex on the entry. I think might have been net code as much as anything, leads to the team cars tangling and position lost by Justin Hall and gained by Jordan Butler behind.
Yeah, Jordan Butler wins. Shane Cameron gets into the picture as well. To me, that's that kind of tires rub each other the wrong way kind of thing. There was no air gap there. It's just there's
a reason that ChampCar makes you run fenders, you know.
Style points.
Mark McCormick has managed to overtake Patrick Pursley, and in the process has got a second as well as a little wedge between himself and Nicholas Love there for second place. It'll be a real tough sledding here for Nick Love if he wants to have a shot at this race win at this point. He just really doesn't seem to have what it takes to get past that last half second.
Tough sledding, huh?
Yeah, buddy. Uphill both ways.
I think we'd call that, tougher than kangaroo leather.
I feel about as lost as you did 20 seconds ago. Andrew Kosick and Tim Wire are still going at it. It looks like Wire's got a bit of a run coming out of turn number 1 as they battle over 7th and 8th place. Wire's got the run around the outside. Kosick's holding it tight. Doesn't leave any room though. Does a good job of kind of parking it on the apex, and Wire not able to capitalize on that little opportunity he had. The two of them keep things going on.
This is the kind of racing that we get out of the Volkswagen Jetta and the Pontiac Solstice, is that they're not necessarily enjoyable or seriously challenging cars to hot lap, but you get to this point, at the end of a 1-hour race, and you look up and down and everyone's got someone to battle. The competition is always very, very close. The pack racing and the drafting and that race sense that's so important in an endurance race starts to pay dividends as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Being able to make the most of traffic when it strikes and make the minimum of any mistakes is really the key. Two of them
race leaders have started the final lap of the race. The drivers we're watching are about to take that white flag, so 2.5 more miles.
Oh.
McCormick and Nick Love.
Nick Love just sent it into turn number 2, and he got right to the rear bumper of Mark McCormick. It wasn't quite enough, and McCormick's going to drive away on the exit, but there was a moment where those cars were maybe 2 feet apart. It was real close there. We'll see. Maybe Nick Love was kind of storing things up, trying to save the tires have a little advantage here on the last lap.
He might have shot his shot. Shane Cameron's still got a chance on Justin Hall, though.
Overlap around the outside, and Cameron's thinking about how he just got punted off the track. Sorry, about how Hall just got punted off the track, I gotta think. Real close between these two.
Yeah, for sure. You've got that one last overtaking opportunity potentially at the carousel at the end of the lap if you need it. I don't think Nick Love is close enough for that, though. It's half a second as they come to the final sector in this battle for the lead. As like I say, it happens everywhere for everyone. Andrew Kossik's been turned by Tim Wire, but at the final corner, Mark McCormick, pole sitter, led most every lap. He's taken the win, but they did not let him get it easy. Nick Love 7 tenths behind, watching him all race long, almost punishing him for that pit lane error.
Sabre takes third as Jordan Butler comes by there for fourth place. Cameron manages to take the spot away from Hall at the end. I think there might have been some contact between those two. Yeah, sure enough, Justin Hall ends up facing the wrong way again. Actually, I think that was self-inflicted by Justin Hall there. He put 2 tires on the exit off. Ooh.
Yeah, dramatic final laps as well for Tim Wire and Andrew Kossick.
And we're watching Mark Kruger as he comes around. Battle with Scott Grinnell.
Yeah, these are the last guys on the lead lap, unless Greg Vandervert might also be a lap down. Grinnell's got a bit of a run. Oh, hang on.
This is a little unconventional.
Like the racetrack? No, it's not the racetrack at all.
I feel like these two have already seen the checkered flag.
I feel like by the timing they haven't, but maybe they shouldn't have.
Yeah, they shouldn't have. They're not a lap down, so either way, Grinnell's little desperation move won't be enough in the end, and blue beats red in this case.
Yeah, there you have it. Bizarre little last lap for these guys as well.
Always out to have some fun. We spend a lot of time focusing on the real tryhards up at the front, but I got to tell you, every single week we got 20 guys out here having a great time racing with some good buddies by this point.
Let's read down those results after round 12 of the ChampCar iRacing series from Mid-Ohio. Mark McCormick takes that win, extends his championship lead handsomely. Nick Love and Alex Albert join him on the podium. Jordan Butler got real close at the end there, battled amongst that group almost all race, couldn't quite grab it. The last lap battle between Shane Cameron and Justin Hall comes up in Shane Cameron's favour, and then Tim Wire, Andrew Kossick, Sean Saputra, and Ian Giebler complete the top 10. Tough race for Ian Giebler, who qualified so well, has great pedigree at this track, but bizarre little error early in the race at Thunder Valley, spun it around, dropped him to the back. Orlando Harrell, Kyle Robertson, Mark Kruger, Scott Grinnell, and Greg Vandervert all finish on the lead lap. Great little battle back and forth between Mark Kruger and Scott Grinnell, even if Grinnell maybe explored some parts of the track that others wouldn't. And then Patrick Persley and Aaron Thorpe 1 lap down, and got Kowalczyk, Jared Kubert. How many laps did the leader do? The leader did 35. So John Wilding is a scored finisher and David Palermo is not.
And of course, an important distinction for all the drivers because, of course, there's a $1,500 prize to first place, but also a $1,500 prize to those who complete 50% of the laps in 12 or more races on the season.
So, Devin, who have we got?
Well, everyone's gone and just slammed the door shut on their trailers. So the only guy I've managed to find has Love in the name. That's Nick Love. How's it going, buddy?
It's going good. How you guys doing?
Oh, we got to watch a pretty great race there. It looked like you were right on the verge of having something for Mark, but it didn't seem like you could get to his bumper on the final lap.
Yeah, I tried to play it pretty conservatively for most of the race. I knew if I got a good exit onto that straight, then I could pull alongside him at least. So I figured I'd just wait till the last lap, and then I overcooked it on entry, and then just never could quite pull alongside. But he had a lot of pace today.
Oh, don't sell yourself short. It looked like the two of you were within just a few tenths and even a few hundredths for most of the second half of that race.
Yeah, well, I got lucky in qualifying. I came out and Alex Albert was in front of me, and he towed me for pretty much the whole lap, and that put me up into the upper ranks. And then Mark pretty much towed me away from the traffic, so I didn't really have any threats pretty much that whole time.
It was a real solid performance out there for you today. Looked like there was maybe the biggest discrepancy being on the fueling during the pit stop. Any thoughts about the pit strategy today?
Well, I never know how many tires I can take and not lose time with fuel, and I always panic about that. So this time I just took no tires, and I let my crew chief fuel so I wouldn't mess it up. And then I just hoped that I'd come out near Mark so I could at least have the draft, and that's kind of how it went. I thought I could go one lap and push it and hopefully come out in front of him, but it just didn't happen.
Well, props on a great race out there today and a great finish for you. Anyone you need to thank today?
Yeah, thanks to a shout out to my girl May. She's been watching this whole race, and I've had my little brother Chris and some of my family watching, so that's been fun. But appreciate it, man. Thanks for all you guys are doing.
It's a pleasure. Hey, did you manage to rustle anyone else up?
No, I haven't tried threats of force yet, but I don't think we're going to be able to strong arm anyone, unfortunately. So we won't hear from our race winner Mark McCormick or third place finisher Alex Albert. People will no doubt be looking forward to some of the cars and racetracks coming up, like next round, September 21st, in the Mazda Miata at Road America. That could be very, very interesting. But I still hold that the Pontiac Solstice produces good racing, even if it doesn't produce thrilling driving. Those can be two different things. It was a pretty good race, all things considered. Really close back and forth all race between McCormick and Nick Love there as well. Neither of them could get away with, even a 2-second mistake. The other would have bolted and maybe taken that race away. So McCormick sustained the pressure. Nick Love kept applying the pressure. Cards fell as they did. Thanks for joining us here. Make sure you subscribe to HJBC, because we will be bringing you live coverage of all the remaining races. If you want to join us on the racetrack, forum.champcar.org has all the information of how you can sign up and race in the ChampCar iRacing series for our remaining rounds this year. Been David Haynes, Evan Peters with me, Michael Derby on the production. We look forward to seeing you round 13 at Road America.